Hey there. I'm excited to announce this to you today. This is what you've been waiting for in your spiritual quest. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm finally ready to announce it that it's ready to go. It's the Grief to Growth Community Circle. Now, this is a sanctuary where like-minded souls are united in their journey through grief and towards personal transformation. It's more than just a place. It's a beginning. It's a commitment to growth and understanding. Here you're finding not just a community, but you're entering a circle of trust and depth. You're going to engage with interactive coursework. You'll dive into exclusive podcast episodes and partake in discussions that illuminate the path from mourning to empowerment. This is a realm where every question is honored and every individual's journey is validated. To be part of this exclusive circle, visit us at grieftogrowth.com/community or look for the chat icon at the bottom of every page on the main website. Remember that entry is a privilege because I want to ensure that every member is as dedicated and genuine as you are. You must apply to join, but the journey within is worth every step. So go ahead and join us today. Check it out, grieftogrowth.com/community, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Hi there. Welcome to the Grief to Growth podcast. Your host is Brian Smith, spiritual seeker, grief survivor, and life coach. Brian believes that the worst tragedies of life provide the greatest opportunity for growth. Brian says he was planted, not buried, and he's here to help you grow where you've been planted. In each episode, Brian and his guests will share what has helped them to survive and thrive. His sincere hope is that this episode helps you today.
And now, a brief word from our sponsor. When I decided I was going to do a podcast, I knew there were more moving parts than most people expect. How do you record a podcast? Where do you host it? How much will it cost? Do I need special software? How do I distribute it? All these questions were in my mind. I was all set to go with another podcast hosting company. Then I heard about Anchor. I believe that Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place. You can use it right from your phone or from your computer. Anchor is not only free, you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor's creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's Anchor, ANCHOR.FM as in FM radio. And now, back to our episode. In today's episode, I sit down with my good friend, Irene Vuvalides. Irene and I met a couple years ago at a conference put on by Suzanne Giesman and Mark Pitstick, and ever since that time, our paths have been intertwined. Irene is the Vice President for Helping Parents Heal. She is the Conference Chairman for the Helping Parents Heal Conference, and she, of course, is a shining light parent. Her daughter, Carly, passed of esophageal cancer, and what I want you to get from today's episode is you're going to hear about what an amazing and strong and resilient person Irene is. But I want you to be inspired by Irene because I think we all have that inner strength. We just need to learn how to tap into it. So with that, here's my friend, Irene Vuvalides. Welcome everybody to another edition of Grief to Growth. This is your host, Brian Smith. And today I'm fortunate enough to have with me Irene Vuvalides. And Irene is a shining light parent. She is the Vice President of Helping Parents Heal. She is the Conference Chairperson for Helping Parents Heal. And she's also the chapter leader for Hilton Head in Bluffton, South Carolina. So Irene and I have known each other for a couple of years. As I said, she's a shining light parent, a member of Helping Parents Heal. So what I want to do today is have a conversation with Irene about how she became involved in Helping Parents Heal, how it's helped her, and just kind of her life in general since the passing of her daughter, Carly. So with that, I'd like to welcome Irene and say hello.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. What an honor to be on your show. This is wonderful.
Yeah, it's really great having you. So I've known you for, I guess, a couple of years now. We've crossed paths in several different places through several different people. It's kind of a lot of us Helping Parents Heal members have. Lots of synchronicities going on. So what I'd like to start off is just tell us your story about how you got started with Helping Parents Heal and tell us about Carly.
Sure. My only child, my daughter, Carly Elizabeth Hughes, transitioned on February 17th, 2013. Carly was diagnosed with a horrific, not that there was any cancer that you would want to be diagnosed with, but with esophageal gastric cancer, which is unheard of in a 23-year-old. And since becoming involved with Helping Parents Heal, I've met 3 other parents whose 24-year-old children have all passed from the same illness, which is really crazy. She was a Boston College graduate, math major, education major, brilliant, beautiful, full of energy, full of life. And, Brian, from the moment she was born, and I just always had the feeling that she wasn't going to be mine for a long period of time. And at the time, her father said, that's ridiculous. It's first-time mother, only child. And that gnawing feeling just was with me forever. And when she went off to college, we would talk multiple times a day. We were very, very close. And I remember at her college graduation, Tony is my husband, Carly's stepdad. I turned to Tony at graduation, and I said, all those years I worried about her. And look, she graduated college. She's fine. She's going to live a long life. Yeah. Well, P.S., 11 months later, she was diagnosed with cancer, and she was gone in 6 months. So it was just horrible, absolutely horrible. The treatment she went through was horrific. What she had to endure, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And one morning, it was about 6 weeks post-surgery, she had major, major surgery where she had her stomach removed, and she was home. I slept with her every night. It was the first night that I didn't sleep with her. She woke up that morning, called me, and she passed in my arms, in Tony's arms. She bled out. I, like anyone else who has gone through this, just was in shock. And even though I knew it wasn't a good diagnosis, I never believed that a 24-year-old couldn't make it. Right. So it never entered my mind that she wouldn't come through this. I thought, what a great inspirational story this will be someday. Yeah. Instead, it turned out to be, the tragedy of my lifetime. And I just wanted to die. I don't know how else I can explain it. Unlike Elizabeth, our leader, Elizabeth Boisson, God bless her heart, when her son Morgan passed, she seemed to have the presence to be okay with it and to know he was okay. And that wasn't my journey at all. I wanted to die. I just wanted to die. And I woke up every morning just counting the hours till I could go to sleep, and just was in this state of, what do I do? How can I possibly live? And my mantra became, Tony can't be twice widowed. Tony's first wife passed from pancreatic cancer. So that's literally what kept me on this earth. And I did not know what to do. So I just decided that all that love and that wonderful relationship I had, it couldn't have disappeared. It had to go somewhere. She had to be somewhere. Yeah. So I just started searching the internet and researching about the afterlife, like so many parents do.
So did you have any belief in the afterlife before this?
I did. I read Raymond Moody's books when they first came out in the 70s, even though I was a teenager. I consider myself a lapsed Catholic. As soon as my older sister, Judy, got her driver's license, it's the last time we ever went to Mass. And I just knew that Catholicism just wasn't right for me. Mm-hmm. And I started exploring, and actually my brother became a Buddhist monk. He was a monk. He moved to Montreal. He got involved with Eastern religion. So I had a lot of exposure to other religions, but until it hits you that, okay, now I really need to know what's happening. Yeah. And I just started exploring and found one of the first books I read was Dr. Eben Alexander's Proof of Heaven, which I couldn't really concentrate to read, but I did manage to read and thought, okay, maybe she is there. I'll find her. And I started Googling about mediums and came across Gary Schwartz's documentary, the HBO documentary, The Afterlife Experiments. Okay, yeah. Where he interviewed George Anderson. He did an experiment actually with George Anderson, Suzanne Northrop, Anne Gaiman, and John Edward. And he did a blind reading. It's it's just fascinating. You can watch it, Google it and watch it. And I thought, oh my gosh, these people are connecting with the other side. At the time I lived in New Jersey, and George Anderson was in New York. And about 6 months after Carly passed, I had scheduled a reading. My sister and I went, and it just changed my life. It changed everything. I mean, within a few minutes, and I did all the things they say that you do. You don't give your name, and you pay for it under something else, and it was under my sister, and there was just no way he could have known the things that he knew. And within 5 minutes, he looked at me, and first I had set the intention, which I had read about, that I just wanted to know that Carly was okay and she wasn't frightened when she passed, because it was so sudden and unexpected. And within 5 minutes, he looked at me and he said, you have a daughter on the other side, and she wants you to stop obsessing about her passing. It was as easy as walking through a door. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And it changed everything. Yeah. It just changed everything, as I'm sure.
We worry about that, right? We worry. Were they scared? Were they in pain?
Yes. Yes. And it was interesting because he said, she's communicating that she was confused because she saw her dog and her grandmother, my mom, and she apparently didn't understand because she knew they were dead. And my mother relayed, no, honey, you're not dead. Just come with grandma. You're just on the other side.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning. And that turned into, I was one of the people, and a lot of parents do suffer from insomnia, which thank goodness it's not really part of my life anymore occasionally. And I would be up all night researching and just reading as much as I could. And I found Mark Ireland's book, Soul Shift, which anyone that has read the book, it's just a fascinating account. Mark is the co-founder of Helping Parents Heal. His son Brandon passed, and his dad was a very famous medium. So I read that book, found out about Helping Parents Heal, and I thought, this is the kind of group I want to get involved with. I went to the other grief support group for parents and left feeling worse than ever. And I said, I will never go to a grief support group again. That was horrible. I mean, there were people there that were 10 years out and they were crying. And I thought, oh God, please don't let me be in this state in 10 years. That's not how I hope to live my life. I contacted Elizabeth. In the meantime, Tony and I left New Jersey. We moved to South Carolina. I needed to get away from everything that I associated with her illness and her passing. And we just wanted to, Tony was going to retire. I didn't want to work anymore, and we couldn't afford to stay in New Jersey. I would have to continue to work. But if we moved to South Carolina, I could no longer have to work, which was just a wonderful blessing. And I reached out to Elizabeth, and for about 6 months talked to her and said, maybe I could start a group. Oh, I don't know if I can do it. Well, maybe. And she was encouraging and just said, of course you can do it, And here I was in a city, a town where I knew no one. We had friends that we moved with, our neighbors and good friends. But other than that, I didn't know anyone. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I contacted a local paper. And at my first meeting, I had, I think, 15 people come.
Yeah. Yeah. You've done an amazing job there and growing your group. And
yeah. When there's a need, I think people come. And now I guess it'll be 4 years in September that I had my first meeting. And some of my members, they're my best friends. They're my family. We celebrate holidays together, and it's amazing. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So after you read Mark's book, you found out about Helping Parents, you called up Elizabeth and just started talking with her.
Yeah.
Okay.
I emailed Elizabeth, and just said, I found out about this group. It sounds wonderful. Where is there a chapter near me, which there wasn't in New Jersey. At the time, I think there was one in Manhattan. And it wasn't, I don't know if it was an active chapter, and I knew I was going to be moving. And I just became friends with Elizabeth and would talk to her. And also early on, I want to mention that Beth D'Angelo, who is now, one of my best friends, one of my soul sisters, reached out pretty early on. About 2 months after Carly passed, one of my good friends went on a vacation in Hawaii, and Beth was leading a spin class at the Four Seasons, where she is a fitness director. and she mentioned that her son had passed, and my girlfriend went up to her and said, I have a friend whose daughter passed last month. I don't think she's going to make it. Is there anything you can tell me that I could help her? And Beth wrote me a letter and sent me home an angel bracelet and a letter, and I reached out to her, and she became my lifeline. And that was the first time where I thought, well, if she can do it, maybe I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel to this day. It's the connection with other people who have experienced it that has just made all the difference on the journey.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, something I want to tell you about today. My podcast platform, Buzzsprout, has recently made it easier for me to allow you to support me financially. Go to www.grieftogrowth.com/subscribe. That's grief2growth.com/subscribe. And once you're there, you can sign up to support me financially. Now, you can do it for as little as $3 a month, or of course, as much as you'd like. If you do that, you'll get access to bonus episodes, and you'll see those in the regular feed. They'll have a lock on them. But when you become a subscriber, you'll actually get access to your own private feed, and you'll be able to listen to the regular podcast along with the bonus podcast for the subscribers. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for sharing the podcast. And I want to thank those of you who support me financially. Have a great day, and on to the episode. Yeah, you're right. I mean, similar to me, in those early days, I was thinking, okay, there's no way that I can do this. And then same experience. I went to one of the other local grief groups and was like, okay, I can't be doing this in 10 years. This is terrible. But joining Helping Parents Heal and finding other parents who were farther out and seemed to be doing okay gave me the ability to think, well, maybe I can do it too. And then you jumped right in and started your own local chapter. And so that's gone. You said it's been like 4 years now, right?
Yeah, it's 4 years now. Well, we all know it's our kids pushing us to do these things. I mean, I was never a public speaker. I was a dental hygienist. I led a very quiet life, and now I'm out there, and it was interesting because I contacted a local newspaper who they sent a reporter to the house and they did a story. And here I am in a brand new community. I'm in a community in off Island, Hilton Head. No one knows me. And the front page of the local paper comes out, and let me see, the article is Finding Hope in the Afterlife.
Yeah.
So that's like, okay, I've been outed. There's no being quiet about this, but it was a wonderful article and it brought people to the meeting. I mean, who wouldn't want to think that they couldn't connect with their children and realize that they will continue to have a relationship with them? Just because they no longer walk this earth doesn't mean we aren't parents, and it doesn't mean we don't have relationships with our children.
Yeah.
Maybe not the ones that we want to have. I'd much rather have her right here with me, but I can't, and there's nothing I can do about that. And there's nothing I can do to bring her back to walk this earth. So what can I do?
Right. And you have hope that you'll see her again. So she'll walk this earth, but you will see her again. And Carly has been an excellent communicator, from what I understand, giving you all kinds of signs and synchronicities and symbols.
I don't want to feel like, I don't want other people to feel badly if they don't receive signs. I didn't for probably about a year and a half. I was too deep in my grief.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way I could connect, or it just didn't happen. But when it started happening, oh my gosh, it's incredible. I met Suzanne Giesman, and that just, blew my world open with signs and taking some of her classes, because as we all know, we can do this ourselves. I mean, I can't do it like a true medium can, but I do get signs and I can connect with her. I mean, recently, two of her college roommates and good friends came to stay with Tony and I was a little, I was a little sad that they were going to come, because it's just a reminder of her absence.
Right.
And, the girls and her friends are so wonderful, and they wanted to come. So they were here, and we took them out to a local restaurant, and I was sitting there waiting to get served, and I'm thinking, oh, I wish Carly was here. And the girls were sitting and we're chatting, and a waitress, little young girl, walks over and she says, "Good evening. I'm so happy to meet you. My name is Carly. I'm your server tonight." And one of the girls looked at her and said, "Of course your name is Carly."
Yeah.
So that just makes you feel like, okay, yeah,
One thing I want to say something about signs, because you mentioned that, and I understand what you're saying, and I've heard some people say I don't get signs. I think a large part of getting signs is being open to seeing the signs, because a lot of times we'll say something like it's a coincidence, or we'll just overlook it, like the fact that the waitress's name was Carly. That's not an obvious thing. It's something that you have to be aware of. And a lot of times people will dismiss the signs they're getting or the synchronicities as just coincidences. And
for sure.
And the other thing I found is people fixate on one thing. Like a lot of parents want a dream visit. It's like, I want a dream visit. I want a dream visit. And sometimes our kids come to us in different ways. So there's a couple things when it comes to receiving signs. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you speak again, is like, I know Suzanne Giesman's mother died or passed away about a year ago. And she's hardly had any communications with her. She's one of the best mediums in the world. But speaking of Suzanne, how did you meet Suzanne? Because I know you guys have become like great friends.
Yeah. Another internet search. I knew of a local medium, Janet Nahavik, who fabulous medium. And I was Googling her name, and Suzanne Giesman's name came up because Suzanne wrote wrote a book about Janet and her journey, and also because she had trained with her, worked with her. So she got hooked onto, the Google search. So I started reading about Suzanne, and I said, oh my gosh, I have to have a reading with her. And I wrote a letter, and there was a waiting list at the time, but, Suzanne called me, and I had an amazing reading. George Anderson had autographed his book, Walking in the Garden of Souls, which I've always called it my Bible. It's a beautiful book of great stories of validations from the other side. And when he autographed the book for me, on the left side, he wrote about Carly and the afterlife, and on the right side, he wrote the Lord's Prayer in Latin. He's a Catholic. And I set my intention for the reading that if Carly, have this book mentioned in the reading, which I know now you're really not supposed to do that. I mean, we shouldn't put those conditions on a medium. And Suzanne said, I'm seeing you with a Bible, but it's not a Bible, it's a book. Wait a minute, she said, it's an autograph book, but I autograph, and this book is autographed on the left as well as the right. So it was just like, oh wow. It was amazing. And we just, we've become friends, and just fortunate to have her in my life. She's incredible. It's just amazing to be around her. I found Jake Samayedny also. Jake is your friend as well, an internet search, and we've become friends. We were building the house in South Carolina, living in a rental house. My dad was with us. I had a reading with Jake, and he had, I guess we spoke after, and he said he was driving to Florida to go visit his mom. And I said, well, come stay with me. So that night at dinner, I told my husband and my dad that a stranger, someone that connects with people on the other side, is going to come stay with us. And it turned out Tony was on the fence. And when Jake stayed with us that weekend, he asked to speak to Tony, and he connected Tony with Gail, his wife, in the spirit world. And he came down the steps after the reading crying, and he said, I'm a believer, I'm in.
Yeah.
So,
the way all these things happen, we talk about some, we know a lot of the same people, but the way that we've all met is just, it seems to be preordained. I mean, I don't see how you could say it's coincidental.
There is no question about it.
My wife, Tawana, read Suzanne's book and said, if she ever comes anywhere close, I want to go, see Suzanne. Well, she was doing an event in Florida. We live in Ohio. It's not close. So she said, she's doing an event in Florida. I want to go to this event. But it happened, we had met Mark Pitstick, and she was doing it with Mark. And we came to that event, and that's where
I met you.
That's where I met you.
Yeah.
And, just so all these things are just, it's crazy how interconnected that it is. And just, I think our kids are orchestrating it.
Oh, there's no question. And Suzanne, after Beth helped me so much, I said, I want to be able to someday do that for other parents.
Right.
And Suzanne had done a reading for both Tracy Susie, your good friend, my good friend, online, helping parents heal. And she asked me to call Tracy. And it was very soon after Eamon passed, and Tracy was in a very bad way, just like I was. And we talked almost daily for a long period of time. And then Suzanne called me and asked me to call Beth West, also another online leader for the Facebook Helping Parents Heal group. And when I spoke to Beth, Beth was very quiet, and she talked a little bit about Tyler, not a whole lot. And she said to me, "Would you tell me your story? I don't really know." And I said, "Well, my daughter Carly passed." And she gasped. And I said, "Beth, what is it?" She said, "I had a dream visit from Tyler 2 weeks ago, and he was driving with a beautiful young woman with long blonde hair. She was driving a blue convertible." Mm-hmm. And she said, "I asked Tyler, 'Who are you with?' And he said, 'This is my friend Carly.'"
Oh, wow.
You know, and I had a blue convertible, and Carly loved that car. She drove it all the time. And when she was in college, she wanted to take my car to school. She thought it would be great to pick up guys in a blue convertible. You know, what did I need a convertible for? So, but that's how I met Beth. I mean, that is just crazy.
Yeah. And I want to say, Irene, we were talking beforehand, I want people to understand. I think sometimes I hear these stories and they think like we're special people or this stuff only happens to certain people. But I have talked to, and you have too, to so many people now, so many parents, and we all have these stories of these events. And the other thing is, I have a relative whose son passed away exactly a year ago today. And she was saying that, she doesn't feel strong, and people were like, praying for strength for her. And the strength is already within us. I think people look at someone like yourself and say, well, Irene must be an extraordinary. Here's Linus. and of course you are, but we all are. We all have that strength that we just need to figure out how to tap into. And sometimes we need someone to kind of just help us when we are feeling weak.
Yeah, and Brian, I did a lot of work. I was under a psychiatric.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi there. I'm really excited to tell you about my latest ebook. It's 4 lessons that you can learn from the near-death experience without going through all the trouble of dying to learn them. I've been studying NDEs for several years now. I am completely convinced that not only are they 100% real, but that there's some very universal wisdom that we can get from the near-death experience. And I've distilled that down in this book into 4 short lessons. And I've also given you all the reasons why I believe that NDEs are absolutely real. So go to www.grieftogrowth.com/NDE lessons to pick it up for free. www.grieftogrowth.com/NDE lessons. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, not psychiatric care. I saw a psychiatrist for a full year after Carly passed.
Your voice just dropped a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yeah, your microphone must have moved. Try it again.
Okay. How's that? That better?
It's still a little low. I'm not sure what happened.
Huh. I don't know. Let me check.
Let me pause the recording. Sure. All right, so we're back. So you said you were under psychiatric care for, you said about a year?
Yeah, honestly, the insomnia had gotten so bad that it was a full 7, 8, or 9 days, I don't remember, where I did not sleep. Mm-hmm. And finally, my physician said, you need to do something. I'll refer you to a psychiatrist who could prescribe meds. And, I think it would be a good idea for you if you spoke to someone. And I actually spoke to a wonderful woman who was a grief psychiatrist affiliated with Columbia University. And she helped me tremendously. We did a lot of work. And I also flew out to Gig Harbor, Washington. In fact, it's going to be in the newsletter. Rochelle Wright has a protocol called repair and reattachment therapy, where you combine EMDR with trauma work. And I think trauma is so underlooked at in grief. I think all of us that have watched our children pass have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder of some form.
Yeah.
She helped me tremendously. I mean, I was caught in a loop where I just would relive those horrible moments. And I would hear an ambulance and it would send me, just down the rabbit hole. I had a healing session with Rick Olson. Suzanne did a healing with me as well. So a lot of what I did, I really worked to get to a place where I feel that I found my strength. It didn't just happen. I really worked on it. And healing, I feel, also happens when you do connect to other people and you hear their story and you just, I feel so connected, Brian. I've never felt this way before. I mean, I felt like I led a very quiet life, loved my family, but now I feel like I'm plugged in. I am just plugged into the universe and so open to everything and helping parents heal, the people that I've met. I mean, it's just amazing. It really is. And I feel like I'm not leading a life of service, but I spend a good portion of my day trying to help other people. I probably
I know you, Irene. You are leading a life of service. I know how hard you work.
I talk to parents probably 4 or 5 people a week, and I'll connect them to other people. And the Caring Listeners has taken up a big piece of that I don't have to spend as much time, and Elizabeth doesn't have to spend much time, and Tracy spends a tremendous amount of time also. Just letting people know that we've been there. If we can do it, you can do it. It's not going to be easy. It's the worst possible thing. But then again, it is the worst possible thing. So, you lose your fear of death.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
I hope, and I think I've learned now from all my reading that we're pulled out of our bodies if we're in a situation that's a horrific death, if we want to call it. So we're not there. So I don't fear that anymore. I look forward to it, but I'm happy to continue to live my life.
Yeah.
But I don't fear the day when I close my eyes and open them on the other side.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Caring Listeners for a second, because people might not know what you're referencing.
Helping Parents Heal has, in fact, I believe you're one of the Caring Listeners.
I am.
A group of parents who you can reach out to and just tell them, talk to them. And it's a group of parents that have gone through exactly what you have gone through. And we're kind of on the other side of the worst of it, maybe. And we can just, try to help. And yeah. I think it's a tremendous asset for helping parents heal. I don't know how many people do contact you, but I think it's a very active group.
It is a very active group. Interestingly enough, not a lot of people contact me. I think maybe because I'm a male, and a lot of the fathers, unfortunately, that go through this kind of shut down and don't really participate. So we're working on things with Helping Parents Heal. We have a group called Helping Fathers Heal now that Mike Edwards is leading. That's fairly active, but still, very small.
Yeah.
But I think, going back to what you said earlier about you getting help, there's normal grief and then there's complicated grief. And so I think for most people and most grief, we kind of get through it on our own. A grandparent dies, something like that. When a child dies, I would say the majority of the time you're in what's called complicated grief, because it's something that's out of order. As you said, there's going to be some level of trauma no matter how they pass, whether it's from an illness like Carly or like with Shayna, where we literally found her, one day and she was healthy one day, and then the next day we found her, not responsive. So there is going to be some level of trauma. So I want to say to people, if you do need professional help, definitely get professional help. And Helping Parents Heal can refer people. But sometimes what people need is just to talk to someone who understands. I went to a grief counselor right after Shayna passed, and I went 3 times. And I had already had a belief in the afterlife because I had a big fear of death before Shayna passed. So I'd done a lot of studying. So when I sat down with him, I was just basically telling him what I believed the whole time. And after the 3rd time, he said, "I don't think you need to come back." And I said, "Yeah, I'll see if I need to see you again." But Helping Parents Heal was so much more healing for me, talking to people like yourself and like Elizabeth and people who had been through it, were farther along than we were. It really helped a lot. I mean, that's what really helped me. And then, as you said, giving back is, people say, "Oh, it's so nice that you're doing this." I do it to help myself. Frankly, it's a selfish thing.
Well, yeah, it does. It does help ourselves when we do this. No question. You know, and I had, in the course of 7 years, I had gone through a horrible divorce. Now, maybe there isn't a good divorce. I don't know. My mom passed, Carly passed, and my dad passed. You know, so it was just, it was a lot all at once. And I'm not afraid to, I'm not embarrassed to say I needed that professional help, and people should reach out if they need that. But, with Helping Parents Heal and the Facebook group, you can 24 hours a day find someone who's active on the Facebook site. I mean, if I have a sleepless night, I'll pop right on and join a conversation. Or I have, Ty's part of our Soul Sister group. There's 8 of us that text morning, noon, and night, and we're in different time zones, so there's always someone awake.
Yeah.
And again, it's that connection to someone else, knowing that you can reach out. I'll have people reach out by text. I just having such a bad day. Are you free to speak? And you just talk to somebody for a few minutes, and it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, let's talk about the Soul Sister group. This is an informal group that came out of the conference in 2018.
Yes.
It seems like it's been longer.
It does feel like it's.
Yeah.
It's
so we met up at the conference. We knew each other from before, but 8 of you started this group text that's been going since then. So it's been almost a year and a half now, I guess.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's pretty much 24/7 because my wife's phone is just constantly going off.
Yeah, I have to shut my phone off now in the car because Tony and I can't figure out how to not have the text come through, and we're driving. It's just pinging all the time. Sue, Heidi, and myself are in South Carolina. Your wife in Ohio, Sarah in Ohio, Tracy in Colorado. Oh, Beth West is now in South Carolina, and Beth D'Angelo in Hawaii. And we just support each other. Somebody's having a bad day, we'll all jump in and just try to cheer them up. We share signs, and when Ty gets a sign from Shayna, that's as if I'm getting a sign.
Yeah.
None of us feel like, oh, I wish it was me. It's like, oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And we just help each other. We remember birthdays and angel days and our own birthdays, and just moments, we'll just check in. We all have different political beliefs, so we try to avoid politics, but sometimes we can't help ourselves. And
yeah,
it's I encourage anyone who has a group of friends to get involved in a group text. It's very helpful. It's wonderful. Yeah,
it's interesting, Irene, because what I found is that after the loss of a child, a lot of times neighbors, friends, even family members will get weird. They'll kind of go away. I think most people end up losing at least 1 or 2 or more. But if you look, you can actually make new family. And as you said, we've got people that we consider family, from Helping Parents Heal, that we've known for, just a couple of years. It seems like so much longer. It seems like we've known each other forever. But, it's new family.
Yeah. I mean, I tell everyone the defining moment for moving, I was in a grocery store, and I was very active in the town where Carly grew up. And I ran a golf outing, and I just knew everyone. It was a small town, and I was in a grocery store. And it was about 6 months, I guess, after she passed. Maybe it was longer. And it was closer because we moved about a year. So it must have been about 9 months. And I saw someone in the grocery store, and she made eye contact with me, turned around, and just headed away. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I went home. I said, that's it. I can't deal with these people anymore. I'm dealing with the worst possible thing, and they don't know how to deal with it, so they walk away. Yeah. I mean, I have cousins. I'm so sad still about this, that I thought I was close to, never acknowledged Carly's passing, didn't come to her memorial service, and I still haven't heard from them this day. It's like people don't know what to say, so they think by saying nothing, it's better. Or it's not real to them if they don't say anything. Yeah. If you don't know what to say, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to say is always acceptable.
Yes, that's acceptable. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do for you? And there are those wonderful friends, but my friendships have changed. I mean, thank goodness my family's been very supportive, and that's just wonderful. But friends, oh my gosh, I have friendships now. I know in a moment's notice I could call any one of dozens of people, and they would be there for me, and I would be the same for them.
Yeah. Well, when this happens, I mean, some people, it's different things. Some people don't know what to say, so they don't say anything, as you said. Some people don't want to be reminded, it makes them sad. They say, I don't want to make you sad, which is always really interesting. Like, we're not always thinking about our kids.
Yeah.
And there are people that seem to think it's like contagious. It's like, if they don't want to believe that a child can pass. And if a child did pass, you must have done something wrong. Or, it's kind of like, I don't want to be around that person because they're bad luck. I mean, I can't really describe it, but.
No, I know what you're saying. When I say their name, there's nothing we want more than for you to include our child in conversation. And I've got one very dear friend who never met Carly, and she has 4 adult children, and she'll talk about her kids and say, well, how did Carly react when she was in college? She'll always bring Carly into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's just wonderful. That's what we want. People think we don't want to hear their names. No, say their name, bring them into conversations. We love talking about our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the conference that you're working on. I know, so you actually initiated this whole Helping Parents Heal conference thing. So let's go back to that. And how did that come about?
This was fun. I started the group, and that was in 2015. And I guess during that year, Beth D'Angelo and I went to a couple of different afterlife conferences, and we went to an IONS conference. And I just love the feeling of connection, of camaraderie. And we happened to meet other parents who were doing the same thing we were. We want to connect with our kids. And when you're in that setting, it's just, I thought it was magic, and I just loved it. And I said to Beth, someday we're going to do a Helping Parents Heal conference. And she said, oh, good luck with that. So I called Elizabeth and I said, Elizabeth, why hasn't anyone done a conference? And she said, Irene, do you understand how much work there is to a conference and how hard it is? I said, how hard could that be? So I said, well, would you let me do it? And she said, well, I guess so. So I thought, okay, well, I've been to conferences, so how difficult could it be? And it really wasn't, Brian. I mean, again, I think the kids just, guided and helped me. And the first conference was a tremendous success. Anyone that's been there, I mean, it was just magic. It was a weekend of magic and signs from our kids and joy. And there were some tears, but it was a joyful event. Don't you think?
Oh, it was crazy. It's funny because when you said signs for our kids, I remember your sister was there, mm-hmm. and Judy got a sign. The coin in her purse.
Oh,
she had a purse that she said she hardly ever carried, and she found this old, I can't remember what it was. It was a coin that she found in the purse that was like had significance to her, and it was like she had an apport. It was just so. The thing about this, because we've got the conference coming up again in April of 2020, and we will talk about that. But, people might think, okay, a conference with a bunch of people who have lost their children, what would that be like? So I do want to say, because, I want to say that, when Ty and I went to that conference, we didn't know what it was going to be like, even though we knew you guys. So we were looking forward to meeting you again and Tracy and Beth and some other people. But the spirit, the whole atmosphere of the whole conference that weekend was really uplifting. And I think it was people being around people that we could be authentic with, people who had been through what we had been through. I remember sitting around the fire that one night, we were talking about the fact that, we could talk about the fact that what we think we were put here for a reason. Mm-hmm. And we're doing our thing, and our kids are watching us, and our kids are helping us. And we're all going to be on the other side someday. And we're going to be talking about, how well we did. So it was a sense of, for me, like renewal, like coming out of there. It's like, okay, I'm ready to go out and, face the world again. So that was in April of 2018. Mm-hmm. And it's like, 550 people?
No, we actually had 450 register, I believe. Then we had some day passes.
Okay.
And then we had the speakers. What limited us at the conference was that we had a dinner and they could only banquet so many people.
Yeah.
So we had a waiting list.
It sold out. Yeah.
Yeah, we sold out, I think, 4 or 5 months before.
Yeah.
I didn't worry about the financial obligation. The hotel was wonderful. We had a first-time person who was in charge of an event, and she let us, we only had to sign a contract for 50 people, and then she let us keep signing in increments. So we didn't have we didn't have a budget. We don't have any money at Helping Parents Heal. We're a nonprofit. There was nothing.
Yeah.
So it just worked out perfectly. And story after story of parents, just signs from their kids. We had the beautiful video of all of our children set to music, and I helped arrange parents, some moms that shared rooms, so the expense was less. Mm-hmm. And these two women came to me, and they had shared a room. They had never met before. They met at the conference, and on the last day, they sat down to watch the video, which was of 400 children, I think, mm-hmm. were in the video, and their two boys were right next to each other in the video.
Yeah.
And it was just story after story like that. But it's not just about, the afterlife and mediumship. It's healing. We had workshops on healing and on trauma and on just amazing, so many amazing workshops. And the next conference, I don't know how we're going to fit all the speakers into the time slots. We have so many people and so many big names that want to get involved and have heard about the conference and came to me and said, hey, we want to be a part of it. We heard about that conference. Yeah. So we're already at about 450 or 460 people registered, and we're going to have to unfortunately cut it off, I think, at 600 just because of the size of the hotel.
Okay. So that's April. What are the dates again? April
16th to 19th, 2020 in Charleston. I had something to do with, I said, all right, I live in South Carolina. Let's give a shout out to the East Coast and have it there, which Charleston is a beautiful city, and a lot of people are combining vacation with the conference. We are going to announce that in 2 years, we'll go back to Arizona.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the speakers that are going to be there.
So we have Suzanne Giesman will be our opening keynote speaker. Suzanne Wilson will be speaking. Raymond Moody, the father of the NDE story, 1975, his book. I mean, I keep it on my desk all the time, Life After Life. Just, everybody should have this book. Dr. Eben Alexander is going to speak, do a keynote. David Kessler. David Kessler co-wrote Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's last 2 or 3 books with her. He's known as a grief expert. And when we spoke, he said everything he knew about grief and taught about grief for 25 years went out the door when his youngest son passed 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He is now a member of Helping Parents Heal, and he's going to come and he'll be giving a keynote. Dr. Mary Neal, her amazing story of her NDE, and she's also a Shining Light parent. Mark Anthony, Jamie Clark, Kat Bailey, Maureen Hancock, Melinda Kushner, Jake Samayedny, Britta Grubin, Jeff Olson, Jeff O'Driscoll, healers Rick Olson, David Rauter, Deborah Martin, Sarah Rubel. Paul Dennison's going to do a keynote about grief yoga. We're going to have panels, dads only. We're going to have one on suicide, one on opioids. Gloria and Heidi Horsley from the Open to Hope Network are going to be at the conference. Dr. Mark Pitstick. It's just incredible, the lineup. It's going to be really.
It's so great to be able to do this for people and do it at a very reasonable cost is the other thing, because the speakers are so generous with donating their time. And so not only have we got fantastic speakers, but because of their donations, we're able to keep the costs for parents, very reasonable.
Yes. We're not making money. This is just to provide a place for healing to happen. And we figured out what the costs are and put a little bit in there in case there's increased costs. And, that's it. So it really is a great value and we're including 3 breakfasts and 2 lunches, which, is amazing. And there are no add-on workshops that you have to pay for. You register, you're in for everything.
Yeah. So I want to encourage anyone who's listening, who's on the fence about going. I talked to a few parents and said, should I think about going or not? And I know it might seem like it's a long way out because it's still, about 8 months out. but it's going to sell out. So,
oh yeah, we've sold out the hotel. We have a new block at a hotel which is only 0.4 of a mile away,
mhm.
and they'll shuttle people back and forth. But yeah, we're going to have that entire hotel is just going to be filled with Shining Light parents. So, and kids.
Yeah.
Our children's spirits will be there. Anybody has any connection with someone who could, in the music industry, that might have a song? I'm working on that now. As you know, I got Garth Brooks to do a little intro for us at the last.
Yeah, that was very cool. Yeah,
which was really cool, and that was a cool story too. I don't know if we have a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
I had set my intention that I really wanted Garth Brooks to sing the
Mhm.
dance. It's just a beautiful song, and so many parents it's special to. So I started writing letters, and I had been writing letters to anyone and just going on Google search again to get to him, and nothing. And finally it was, I guess it was September, and the conference was April, and I said, okay, you got to give it up. Some things just don't work out. It's okay. Something else will come along. And the next, like a couple days later, our niece, Tony's niece in Colorado, called me up and she said, and Irene, you're not going to believe this. I'm going to a wedding in Nashville in January. I said, oh, that's great, Ariana. She said, guess whose house the wedding is at? I said, whose house? Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood. And I was like, what? I said, I have been writing to Garth Brooks and I can't get him. She said, oh, well, I'll give you his manager's email address. And that's all she did. She gave me the email address.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote this letter to Garth Brooks, and about a month later, I click on, go my email, and there's an email from Garth Brooks, and he wrote the welcome to our conference and allowed us to play his song, The Dance, and we played the slideshow. So
yeah,
kids were right there.
That's how things work out.
That's how they work out. They just work out that way. So it's not working out quite the same. So if anyone out there has a connection to someone, I'd love to get Eric Clapton to do Tears.
Oh, yeah.
For us, but we'll see. If we don't, something else will come along.
Yeah, it'll be great either way. You did a fantastic job with the first conference. I'm sure I know you're doing a great job with this one as well. So again, I want to encourage people to, if you're on the fence about going, don't be on the fence. It's definitely worth your while. And I know that weekend for a lot of people really gave them the boost that they needed. Just being around other parents and seeing, having hope, just being able to hope again and be able to live it, to be inspired by people, like yourself, that just seem just as a force of nature. I mean, just, and as you said, this is not, you're not a public speaker. This is not your professional background. This is just what you're doing because spirit is flowing through you and you're just allowing it to happen.
Yeah, we did a survey after, and one mom had contacted me and she said, we went back home and our friend said to us, did you join a cult or did you go to a conference? You're so happy. What is this about? And she just said it was just connecting with other people who get it. And that's what it is. Nobody wants to be a part of our group. But if you are if you do have a child on the other side, there's just an amazing organization that you can be a part of. I am just so blessed to be a part of helping parents heal. And I'm so grateful. I wake up every day and I say this all the time. I put my feet on the ground in the morning and I say, what can I do today to honor my daughter? And what can I do today to make a difference in someone else's life? And that's how I try to live my life. Yeah.
Well, I know Carly pushes you the way Shayna pushes me. They don't let up. And we have these readings. They drop in on each other's readings. They Suzanne Wilson keeps pulling me aside and said, Shayna has told me to tell you, this and, keep going forward and write your book and, those types of things. So, they motivate us, they push us. And, I feel like, and I know you do too, that I have responsibility to continue her legacy. I think we have a joint mission is the way I look at it.
We do. And, my daughter, Carly and I had the best relationship. We really did. And if she didn't get my attention, she'd call me Irene. She wouldn't call me Mom.
Mm.
I often say that, when I cross over, I don't want her yelling at me from, the tunnel or whatever, saying,
right.
Irene, why did you waste all your time crying? I was fine. I was right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to do that. I mean, I have sad days. Of course I do. I miss her terribly. I miss her every day, but I can do this. I can live my life and I can try and make a difference in someone else's life. And that's what it's all about. It's all about love. It's all about connection. It's not about, what we amass or what we do or how much money we have. It's how much love do we have in our lives.
I really appreciate you doing this, Irene, and I appreciate your transparency also, because I do want people to understand that we do have bad days. So people might look at us and say, "Oh, you're so strong," and it's like, we have bad days, we have tough times, and we've gone through tough times, and we'll continue to go through them. But it's a matter of just getting through, day by day, and finding that motivation to, like you said, get out of bed in the morning. What am I going to do today to make a difference? And I'm here for at least one more day, and we don't know how long we're going to be here, but we do know that we're going to be home, at some point.
Yes. Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this. It's been great talking to you.
It's an honor. It's an honor being on your program. Your book is just wonderful. I told you, it's just amazing. I'm going to be giving copies out to my members. I think I wish I had that book, 6.5 years ago. So
thanks. Well,
a lot of people.
It's really great being on the team. Like I said, I view you guys as family, but we're also a team. Yeah. So we work together to get things done, and mutual supporting each other while we're trying to help other people. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Thanks a lot, Irene. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for another episode of Grief to Growth. This is your host, Brian Smith. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Feel free to reach out to me anytime at www.grieftogrowth.com. That's www.grief2growth.com. And you may know I am a life coach and grief partner. So if you'd like to schedule a free half-hour consultation and see how we might work together, you can do that on my website at grieftogrowth.com. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful day. Hi there. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the podcast, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What questions came up for you? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? I invite you to visit us at grieftogrowth.circle.so. That's growth2growth.circle.so to continue the conversation with me and with other listeners. It's a space to sound off, to share reactions, and to go deeper into the topics from the show. I look forward to chatting more, and I hope to see you there.